Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Natalia Moczulska, and this is the news. 86 years ago, the so-called Operation Poland began. Between 1937 and 1938, the NKVD murdered more than 100,000 Poles in the Soviet Union on the orders of People's Commissar Nikolai Yezhov. As a result of the partition of the First Republic, many Poles remained in the former eastern borderlands. After World War I, the Bolsheviks took power in Russia and began to carry out collectivization and atheization. Poles rebelled against this. Researchers report that a Pole living in the former Soviet Union was 37 times more likely to face an execution authority than a representative of any other nation that had to live in the Soviet Union. Initially, Soviet authorities created two special enclaves for Poles, Marchlewszczyzna and Dzierżyńszczyzna, but these measures did not break the resistance. As a result, and fear of Polish aspirations to regain the pre-1772 borders, Joseph Stalin decided to murder the Poles. Stalin was simply a psychopath who would certainly in a modern contemporary nation become locked up in a psychiatric facility to simply be treated. As an individual, he was dangerous because all these crimes were born in his mind. The People's Commissar of Internal Affairs of the Soviet Union, Nikolai Yezhov, signed the verdict that decided the Polish people's fate on August 11, 1937. The following are subject to arrest: the activists of the Polish military organization discovered during the investigation and not found so far, according to the attached list. All prisoners of war from the Polish army remaining in the USSR, fugitives from Poland regardless of the time of their passage to the USSR, political emigrant and persons from the exchange of political prisoners who came from Poland, former members of the Polish Socialist Party of other Polish anti-Soviet political parties, the most active part of the local anti-Soviet nationalist element from the Polish national regions. The anti-Polish operation carried out by the NKVD is part of the centuries-old Russian strategy of destroying our nation. Since Tsarist times, the Russians have displaced and murdered our ancestors.
Nie ma znaczenia.
It did not matter what a Polish person did, where a Pole worked, or whether one actually committed any act against the Soviet state. It didn't. The only reason to kill a Pole was that the person bore a Polish name, acknowledged one's Polishness, and spoke Polish.
Mówi po polsku.
According to official data, the Soviets murdered more than 111,000 Poles between 1937 and 1938. However, as historians point out, this information may be significantly underestimated. Let's remember, these are only the names of the fathers of the families we know. I've already been told by one of the memorial staff to multiply this number by 2 or 3, because for a majority of the fathers, there were also their wives and children who were not accounted for. The culmination of the NKVD's bloody operation was the Katyń massacre, during which more than 20,000 Polish officers were murdered by a shot in the back of the head. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced the dismissal of the heads of all the country's regional military recruitment centers. He announced the decision after a meeting of the National Security and Defense Council. The decision is due to numerous cases of corruption. In total, 112 criminal cases against officials in military recruitment centers have been opened. 33 suspicion notices have been issued against regional, city, and district recruitment chiefs, military health commissions employees, and other officials. Officials received bribes in cash or cryptocurrency, which was the only difference, but cynicism was all the same everywhere. Our decision is the following: we are firing all regional recruitment chiefs. This system should be run by people who know exactly what war is and why cynicism and bribery during war is treason. The number of fire victims in Hawaii has risen to 55. U.S. President Joe Biden has declared a state of disaster on the islands. He ordered federal assistance to state and local authorities to help rebuild areas devastated by the fires.
Anyone who's lost a loved one, whose home has been damaged or destroyed, is going to get help immediately. And I've directed that we surge support to these brave firefighters and first responders and emergency personnel working around the clock there, risking their lives. we're working as quickly as possible to fight these fires and evacuate residents and tourists. In the meantime, our prayers with the people of Hawaii, but not just our prayers. Every asset we have will be available to them.
What we saw was likely the largest natural disaster in Hawaii state history. We are seeing loss of life here. As you know, the number has been rising, and we will continue to see loss of life. We also have seen many hundreds of homes destroyed, and that's going to take a great deal of time to recover from. But that's why we come together.
Way by far, yeah. Beyond any tsunamis or any other tropical storms that have come through. Just, yeah, by 100 times. COVID, everything. For our small town, at least.
Yeah, this is our first time coming back and, like, actually knowing that our house burned down. We haven't really known anything for the last couple of days because there's no information coming through. Since we have no power, no cell service, no Wi-Fi, we're getting bits from car radio, but nobody really knows until they can make it in here whether their houses are standing or not.
People lost everything. Homes, jobs, their cars, some their pets. There's still people missing. I've fought wildfires in California, and I was here yesterday when it flared up. I've never seen something ravaged so fast. And this is going to go on for a while. This is going to take years to recover. And it just breaks my heart that all the history from back in the whaling days of the 1800s, dust, ash and dust.
The fire consumed several hundred buildings, including 18th century monuments in the town of Lahaina. Aerial photos from before the fire and after the fire passed showed the extent of the damage. Fires in Hawaii are not surprising, but this time they have been taken to catastrophic proportions by droughts and Hurricane Dora. Strong winds spread the fire at lightning speed across the islands of Hawaii, also known as Big Island, and Maui. The U.S. Coast Guard reported that more than 50 people were rescued from the Pacific Ocean. These people jumped into the water to protect themselves from the flames. Earlier today, activists with the youth climate movement Fridays for Future called on European countries to do more to tackle climate change as they visited flood-hit Slovenia. German activist Luisa Nobeyer said summer 2023 had to be a turning point in Europe's response to climate change, pointing to a series of extreme weather events that have hit the continent in recent months. Luisa also said Europe's leaders had failed to keep their people safe and had delayed taking action to halt increasing global temperatures that scientists say make extreme weather events more likely.
This year and this summer in particular, the summer of 2023, it must be a turning point for European climate catastrophe action. It must be a moment where our leaders step up to protect people here and now and to protect also people from tomorrow's catastrophes. We demand European leaders to wake up in the light of this crisis. As European climate activists in the last days, we have assembled a call to action to European leaders. The statement has been signed by climate activists in 20 European countries, aged 14 to 40. And at this point, we really call on everyone to understand the wider pattern behind the catastrophes we are seeing.
6 people have died and thousands had to be evacuated in floods that struck large parts of Slovenia this week, while wildfires have charred landscapes across southern Europe this summer. Croatian activist Mia Brandic said while the European Union had promised hundreds of millions of euros to help Slovenia recover, it was not doing enough to achieve a just ecological transition and prevent future disasters. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Please stay tuned for Poland Daily Weather, Poland Daily Business, and some of our other programs. But for me, it's have a wonderful weekend.